This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac extra value meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Welcome to the Chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 205 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Saturday morning spread right here on the Eagles Pinpool Network. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him the follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's about to be Red October on Saturday. The Eagles are 4-0. And a little plug before we get started. Saturday morning spread. Jack Fritz from WIP in Philadelphia is coming on to talk about the Phils. And then we'll get into the rest of the NFL Week 5 and college football Week 6. But exciting Saturday morning spread on episode 3 on Saturday.
All right. Yeah, you guys be sure and tune into that on Saturday morning. What time are you going live this week? I think you were going to change the time.
Yeah, we're going to do 9 a.m. We're going to do 9 a.m. going forward, I think. But especially this week, at least, we're going 9 a.m.
All right. Awesome. So you guys be sure and check that out. Brett Eclipse saying an atypical time for Chalk Talk. Not complaining since I can watch the live stream without being struck in a boring philosophy lecture. Back in the day, Mark, this was the typical time for Chalk Talk.
It was.
We were originally a Tuesday night show that moved to a Monday afternoon show, and we may be flexible because my work stuff's way different and Mark's traveling now, so we may use Tuesday nights as a fallback a little more frequently, but that lets us talk about the Monday night games too, so that's kind of nice as well. But let's go ahead and dive into it, and we won't spend much time on this game because it happened so long ago. But Thursday Night Football, the Seahawks win 23-20 over the Cardinals, and in this game, Jackson Smith and Jigba did not catch a pass until the final minute of the third quarter, but he still ended up with 4 catches for 79 yards. The Seahawks led 20-6 with under 10 minutes to go, but gave up a touchdown, missed a field goal, then gave up another touchdown to make it a tie game with 28 seconds left. But the Cardinals' kickoff was short of the landing zone, which is the stupidest thing I've ever had to say on a podcast, and I hate the kickoff rules. But it gave the Seahawks the ball at the 40-yard line, and one 22-yard pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba later. The Seahawks killed the clock and hit a 52-yarder to win the game. Mark, any big takeaways that you had from this one?
Much time for Sam Darnold, man. I mean, you can't be leaving time on the clock for Sam. No, it's ridiculous. You're right. You need to complete like one pass to get into field goal range now. But this was one of those games where like the Seahawks dominated for 90% of the game. And then all of a sudden Arizona gets back into it. I'm trying to even, I remember I was looking at towards the end of the game at the win expectancy. Yeah. I'm trying to get the exact number 90. So it was 20-6 with 6.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I guess Arizona had the ball driving and Seattle had a 96.5% win percentage. And then all of a sudden Arizona's driving at the end of the game. They tie the game and it's a tie game. And yeah, Sam Darnold turns it around. So I don't want to overreact to kind of the last 5 minutes of the game that led up to the field goal, because for 56 minutes or 55 minutes in total of this game or whatever you want to say, Seattle looked amazing. Seattle looked awesome. But then weirdly, they let Arizona get back into it all of a sudden in the last couple of minutes. So I really think that's all I have to take away from it. My take when it was 20-6 was I thought that we were going to be coming on here doing like the official Arizona like burial, because I guess I'll still go here because I still feel this way despite that. What is Arizona's identity? What do the Cardinals do?
Arizona's identity is being a mid football team.
Like, I don't like now that especially now that you don't have James Conner. Like, if you had James Conner, maybe you could say like, you have a good running game. James Conner's going to run the ball well, and Kyler adds to it in less than you'd like to, but he does add to it at times. So it's like you had that. The stat that I had on Friday, they're now 3-10 in games that James Conner has been inactive since he joined the team in 2021. So when James Conner's out, Arizona has not been very good, and James Conner's out for the rest of the year. So I think that it's going to be a tough season for Arizona. I don't think that defense is anything special. I don't know what their identity is on offense. Marv had a better game, I guess, at the end here. But yeah, I'm not I feel like I crap on Arizona every time we talk about them, but the whole time I was watching this game, I just couldn't, I couldn't try to, like, what do they do well?
Yeah. Not much.
Nothing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep rolling along. Let's go to Dublin. For the early game on Sunday, the Vikings lose to the Steelers 21-24. A DK Metcalf 80-yard touchdown, followed by a Carson Wentz interception, made this game look like it was going to get out of hand early, but the Steelers never really put it away. And then back-to-back touchdowns in the fourth quarter pulled Minnesota really close, but they just couldn't seal the deal. And so I think one of my bigger takeaways from this game is Aaron Rodgers is just getting the ball out so quick. He threw the ball under 2.5 seconds on 72% of his passes. His overall time to throw was 2.17 seconds, which is the fastest he has had in the next-gen stats era. His average depth of target was also 2.6 yards, which is the lowest by more than a yard in the same time frame. And so Rodgers is getting the ball out tremendously quickly, not pushing it downfield. And they're kind of relying on a defense, and they're executing the quick game well. Kenny Gainwell had a good game in this one. He had 99 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns for Pittsburgh and added 35 receiving yards. And then on the Vikings side, Carson Wentz still has the pocket presence of a blind man. He took 6 sacks, threw 2 interceptions. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison each had over 100 receiving yards, but they just couldn't sustain drives. Later in the game, they had a chance to drive for the tie or a win, and Wentz just fell apart. He threw intentional grounding. He had to delay a game. Just really bad stuff in key moments there from Carson Wentz. What were your thoughts on this one?
The Kenny Gainwell game, 99 yards. What a nice surprise for Kenny. We talked about it, I think, in the offseason. I didn't want to let him go. I think he only got like $2 million. I would have liked to keep him as the backup, but I think he might be the best running back there. They drafted Caleb Johnson, who was a guy I wasn't very high on, but once they drafted him, I assumed they would want him to win the job. And then the training camp was like a nightmare for Johnson. It didn't go well. And then he was it week 1 or week 2 where he had the really dumb
Week 2.
The kickoff for week 2 where he had the really dumb thing. He didn't know he had to grab the ball. So he's been in Tomlin's doghouse, and then Jalen Warren gets hurt, and you think, oh, maybe at this point Caleb Johnson will get a chance. And no, Kenny Gainwell gets 19 carries and is way more efficient in those 19 than Johnson was with 6. So I think I said on our show last week, if I didn't say on our show, I said it on my show, the Steelers are going to be 5-1, and none of us are going to think they're any good. This was the tough test. They went to Dublin, won as an underdog. Now they have the bye. Next week, they get Cleveland. This is really unfair, by the way. No one cares because it's the Cleveland Browns. But the Steelers went to Dublin, got a bye. Cleveland goes to the UK to play Minnesota, who's already been there. And then Cleveland doesn't get a bye when they come back. They just go play Pittsburgh, who's coming off a bye. It's unbelievably unfair to Cleveland. But Pittsburgh's going to win that game. And then we've seen what the Cincinnati Bengals are. We're going to talk about that. The Steelers are going to beat the Bengals. And then it gets hard from there for the Steelers. But they're going to be 5-1, and no one's going to think they're good.
Yeah. We got a great comment here from Brett Eclipse that Germans watching their first ever football game might think Kenny Gainwell is the best running back on earth. I did feel bad for Kenny Gainwell. 99 yards. The guy's never had a 100-yard game, and he stops at 99 yards. They should have gotten him one more carry. He needed that 100-yard game. Maybe he'll get it next week.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the guy moving forward. Jalen Warren, coming into this year, I think he had never had more than 15 touches in a game. So if they thought Jalen Warren was like a bell cow running back or a real legit starting running back, he would have been by now. So I think Kenny Gainwell has a legit chance here.
Yeah. All right, well, let's keep rolling. Washington at Atlanta. Atlanta wins 34-27, and Michael Penix Jr. had a really bad game last week, but he was able to set that aside, and he bounced back in a big way against Washington's defense. He was 20-26 for 313 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception. He connected with Drake London 8 times for 110 yards and a touchdown. Bijan Robinson was also a huge factor. He only had 75 rushing yards, but he had 106 receiving yards. Now, the Commanders were playing down Jaden Daniels. They were playing down Terry McLaurin. Deebo Samuel put up good numbers. He had 6 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. But Washington was 1 of 8 on third downs. They were just unable to sustain drives, and they allowed Atlanta to put up over 400 yards of offense on them. And so Washington's defense is a concern. And I mean, the offense was fine, especially considering the guys that they're missing, but the defense is maybe going to be problematic for this Commanders team.
Do you want the positive or the negative for Atlanta?
Give me the positive.
Positive, I'd say this offense, like, if you were to draw up in the offseason, like, if the Falcons are a 10-7 team or whatever, a good offense, like, how does a game look on offense for them? This is how you draw it up. Like, Penix throws for 300 plus. Bijan gets a ton of carries. You even get to sprinkle in Algier. They both score. Drake London, this guy who you pick high in everybody picked high in fantasy, 8 catches, 110 yards in the touchdown. Bijan, 100 yards receiving. Kyle Pitts involved in the game. Like, this is kind of how you draw it up in theory on offense. But the negative, the defense that I celebrated after week 2 when they held Minnesota to 6 because they had all these rookies. You look at what they've done the last 2 weeks. They gave up 30 to Carolina. I know some of that's turnover based. And then you give up 27 to Washington without Jaden Daniels. You allow 6.7 yards per carry to a Washington team that we have, talked at length about how they are lacking in the department of running the football. I don't know. I wonder what that is. So to running backs, they gave up 14 carries for 108 yards. So that's not great. Or 106 yards. I apologize. That's not great. And then you gave up yards to Mariota as well. So defense you said defense might be a legit problem for the Commanders. Defense might be a legit problem for the Falcons as well, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's go New Orleans at Buffalo. Buffalo wins this game 31-19, but this was shockingly close for a long time. New Orleans kicked a field goal to make it 19-21 with 9 minutes left. But then the Bills score on back-to-back drives to put the game away. Josh Allen had a 27-yard scramble on a 3rd and 5, and then a 28-yard touchdown pass on the next play to basically give them some breathing room. But this game was in doubt, which is not something you expect of Buffalo against New Orleans, especially at home. But James Cook rushed for 117 yards and a touchdown. He had 18 receiving yards. The Saints were able to run the ball on the Bills. They rushed for 189 yards on 34 carries, which is 5.6 yards per carry. But a Chris Olave interception, yes, I said that right. A Chris Olave interception took points off the board in the red zone. And then Spencer Rattler misses a wide-open Brandon Cooks in the end zone later in the day, and the game just gets away from the Saints because they could have won this one. The Bills are allowing a league worst 160-plus yards on the ground per game. And in this one, they allowed 165 yards after contact, the 3rd most by a team in the next-gen stats era. So some shockingly bad numbers in run defense there for the Bills. What's your takeaway on this one?
Someone had a good question. Who loses the game first between Buffalo and us? I'm trying to pull up the schedules simultaneously so I can see week by week.
Buffalo goes New England at Atlanta, bye week at Carolina versus Kansas City. So they're not in serious jeopardy until week 9.
I think that Kansas City game probably is a loss.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Yeah, I'm going to go Kansas City as a loss, and I think the Eagles lose the next week in Green Bay. So my take is they both get to – I've talked about this a lot on Twitter, but I think the Eagles are going to be 8-0. So that means the Bills would get to 5, 6, 7. They get to 7-0. So
yeah, I kind of look at that in the same way, honestly. Although, I just can't believe in Minnesota with any of the quarterbacks on their roster. So yeah. All right.
My take on Saints Bills is I'm not going to put my best effort into this game because the Bills decided not to either. They didn't show up for this game. They didn't care about this game. And people are going to be like, oh, should we be concerned? They didn't blow the thing. They didn't even show up. They rolled the balls out on the field and it was a joke. I don't think they showed anything, and they weren't going to, they didn't get up for that game.
Yeah. All right.
I think they will next week, though, for New England, because they didn't this week, and I'm sure the coaching staff will let them hear about it. I think they'll get up next week and beat the crap out of New England.
All right, let's keep rolling. Cleveland at Detroit. Detroit wins 34-10. Aidan Hutchinson had a huge game in this one. He had 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 9 pressures, 2 tackles for loss. The defense as a whole generated 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions of Joe Flacco, 1 fumble by Joe Flacco. Game started well for Cleveland. They went on an 88-yard touchdown drive on their first possession, and then they only gained 161 yards on their next 13 possessions. Jahmyr Gibbs rushed for 91 yards and a touchdown in this game on 15 carries. 86 of those yards were gained against loaded boxes, which is more than any other running back has had in a game this season. So, although it looked bad in week 1, I think we can say that the Lions' running game is back. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the Lions look great. I don't know how much to take away from it. I do think this was Cleveland beat Green Bay 13-10, and everybody, Cleveland, they're gonna I tweeted out that thing that the Steelers were gonna go 5-1, and everybody's response was, "Oh, Cleveland's a tough matchup. They're gonna beat Pittsburgh," and all that stuff. And Cleveland's not going to be good because their offense is incompetent. They have the worst quarterback play in football. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that I don't think Cleveland wins, more than 4 games this year. I feel like when they won last week, people were kind of starting to act like they were going to be competitive and not one of the bottom feeders of the league. They're absolutely still going to be a bottom feeder of the league. And I'd like to see them try Gabriel or Shador just to see something new.
Yeah, did they bench Flacco? Saw Brett Eclipse said it took 4 weeks for Stefanski to finally bench Joe Flacco. I don't follow any like the press conferences and things, but did that happen? Did he announce they're going to start one of those guys?
I didn't see that. I from what I saw, I saw that Flacco was starting next week.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not even interested in the Eagles press conferences, to be honest. I don't follow them much for other teams either, but I'll try to look that up here in a minute. But for now, let's go on to the next game. Carolina at New England. New England wins 42-13. Carolina scored on their opening drive, and then New England scored 42 unanswered points. They had a punt return touchdown. They had a run of 4 touchdowns and 5 possessions. Drake May was 14-17 for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. He completed over... Here's a fun one for you, Mark. Drake May has completed over 75% of his passes and thrown 2 or more touchdowns in each of his last 3 games. Only one other quarterback in NFL history has ever done that in a season. Do you know who it was?
What's the stat again?
75% completion and 2 touchdowns in 3 straight games.
Who is it?
Tom Brady in 2007.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to say that, but I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I should have said it.
Yeah, so, just Tom Brady during his 2007 MVP season. So Drake May, obviously MVP this year. You can go ahead and write that one down. Stephon Diggs had 6 catches for 101 yards. This was his first 100-yard game since week 6 of the 2023 season, so almost 2 years ago, which would be huge for them if he can kind of get going again. And what a dramatic swing for Carolina, who beats the Falcons 30-0 last week, and then they just get blown out by the Patriots.
Not a good Patriots team. I mean, this is a Patriots team that lost 20-13 to the Raiders, who haven't won since. They barely beat the Dolphins, who are 1-3. They lost at home to Pittsburgh. Like, this is not a good Patriots team that showed up and absolutely blew you out. So I am not. Carolina is going to win 5 or 6 games. I had them at 8 wins in the preseason, and it's after watching week 1, I knew to knock them down. But then you get a little bit of hope after last week, which came out of nowhere against Atlanta, and then they go right back. Yeah, it's Carolina. What an absolute Jekyll and Hyde operation there. I don't. They benched Bryce Young at the end of the game. What are we going to do the thing again that we did last year? We're just gonna run the same play, like where we're gonna have Andy Dalton come in. He's gonna get in a car accident, and then we're gonna put Bryce Young back in.
It worked last year.
Yeah, what? Someone investigate Carolina if Andy Dalton gets in a car accident. If that happens again, and that takes him out for Bryce Young to come back in, investigate the Carolina.
They could always go with the Tyrod Taylor thing in L.A. and just collapse his lungs so Justin Herbert can play. But yeah.
I got reminded of that recently when Tyrod was playing this year. Someone brought that story up, and I was like, I can't believe that was like on a player that is still in the NFL. Like that happened.
Yeah, no kidding. It seems like forever ago. And it does look like Dylan Gabriel is expected to start this week for the Browns. So at least they're trying something. So kudos to them.
That's awesome. I did not see that at all.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling here. Let's go to MetLife. The Giants win the game but lose the season. They win 21-18 over the Chargers, but they lose Malik Neighbors to a torn ACL for the year. Joe Alt also injured his ankle. It terrifies me that the Eagles have to play a game on MetLife turf every year. Like, it legitimately terrifies me every season. But it's a shame that, Alt will be back. It's a shame that Neighbors is done for the year because that's really going to impact the development of Jackson Dart, who was solid in his first start. He leads a 9-play, 89-yard scoring drive, capped with a 15-yard scramble for a touchdown. Became the first quarterback since Patrick Mahomes to lead an 80-yard scoring drive on the first drive of his first start. He ends the day 13-20 for 111 yards and a touchdown. He rushes for 54 yards and a touchdown. No turnovers, Time to throw 2.48 seconds. He's playing in rhythm. So although it didn't light up the stat sheet, I thought it was an encouraging performance from Dart. And then he just loses his go-to guy. So that stinks for the Giants. And then for the Chargers, I mean, he's down both of his starting tackles. Justin Herbert just got obliterated. He was pressured on 48% of his dropbacks. He threw 2 picks. The run game worked, surprisingly. Omarion Hampton had 12 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. And it was a close game, but they stayed way too pass-heavy, and that surprised me. Because it surprised me how pass-heavy they've been all year, because we thought that Harbaugh was going to come in and just run the I formation. And so it surprised me how pass-heavy they've been, but with the run game going and a total inability to pass protect, I was really surprised that they didn't run the ball more in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bad game for Herbert after, 3 games. We were calling him the MVP. Obviously, he loses a tackle, so it's not totally on him, but this is a pretty bad loss for the Chargers. If you're a team that's hoping to beat out the Chiefs in that division, hoping to compete with the Bills to be a top seed in the AFC, you can't go and lose to the Giants in a game where they only throw for 111 yards. It's not, or 119 technically, if you want to add Russell Wilson's 8 yards. But I was shocked by this result. I was shocked that the Chargers didn't figure something out in the passing game, or just to get down the field. And you look at the box score, and it's hard to believe that they lost the game. They outgained them by 90 yards. That they were just much more efficient on offense. Big penalty disparity, 14 penalties to 8 penalties, but 107 yards to 43 yards in favor of the Giants there. So this was a game that I had the Chargers money line in a parlay, and I kind of was tracking it on the side. And the whole game, I was just like, how are the Chargers not winning? Obviously, outside of the Dexter Lawrence interception, which gave the Giants a field goal, they didn't even fully capitalize on that in scoring a touchdown. But yeah, I'm willing to just shrug my shoulders and shrug it off as a weird game and not ding the Chargers too much. They came across the country. What I will say is, now, if you're the Chargers and you want to be considered as a serious team, you have to go beat Washington at home next week. Whether that's Jaden Daniels or Marcus Mariota, the Chargers, if you want to win that division, you have to go beat Washington next week. You can't let this slide to 3-2.
Shout out to me for having Justin Herbert as my fantasy quarterback this week. That was great.
I feel like the rest of your guys probably did well, though.
I did pick up my first win of the year, so we at least got that. But it was in spite of Justin Herbert. So.
Genty and London, good weeks from those guys.
It's rough having Justin Fields and Justin Herbert as your 2 quarterbacks, because one of them is going to have an awesome week and the other one will be trash, and you just never know which is going to be which. But oh well, not a fantasy football show. Still hate fantasy football, but I digress. Let's keep rolling here. Tennessee at Houston. Houston wins 26-0. Kickers are hitting field goals at a record pace this season. And meanwhile, the Titans are missing multiple 40-yard field goals in the same game en route to getting shut out. This is just such a bad Titans team. Brian Callahan gave up offensive play calling duties this week, and it just didn't matter. Cam Ward was 10 of 26 for 108 yards with a pick. The interception did at least go off of a receiver's hands. Alec Iomanner hits him in the hands. It wasn't the only drop on the day either. But this Titans, there's just nothing to talk about there. You can't even evaluate the quarterback. It's so bad. On the Texans side of things, the Texans are really struggling to run the ball. They averaged 3.7 yards per carry, but C.J. Stroud was 22 of 28 for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also, just, a note on how the Texans are doing, protecting their quarterback. Jeffrey Simmons recorded the fastest sack in the NFL in the last 2 years when he sacked C.J. Stroud in 2.09 seconds. The Texans do get their first win of the season. This is crazy, Mark. The Texans are 1-3, despite allowing only 12.75 points per game.
The defense has been unbelievable.
Yeah, and the offense has been unbelievably bad. What were your thoughts on this one?
I'm curious, are these the two lowest scoring teams in the NFL? I'm looking at it right here. No, Houston's actually fourth lowest. Tennessee is lowest, with 51 points through 4 games. That is an embarrassing average. Houston is 64 at least. Good for Houston. But Tennessee is one of those. We have almost every year we have one of them, but just a truly dreadful 1-win, maybe 2-win team that they are not going to be competitive in most of their losses. Brian, it's nice to have a true bozo head coach to laugh at. Like, I think it's good for football to have just an absolute bozo that everybody can point at and say, you're not very smart. And it makes us all feel better because it makes us feel like we could probably go do that and not be much worse than Brian Callahan. And I don't know if that's true, but man, I don't know how you could do much worse than what Brian Callahan's doing. You're putting up 0 points. You're getting blown out. Your defense is giving up 30 plus twice or 26 plus 3 times. You're getting mad at media members weekly. You change the play calling and then you answer a question from the media being like, I thought my play calling was great. I don't think there was anything wrong with what I was trying to do. I just got to focus on more head coach stuff. It's like, that isn't what you say. But yeah, he's a true bozo in a way that I don't know the last head coach we've had that has been this big of a bozo.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like dumb head coaches that have been fired the last couple of years. Like Joe Judge, big time bozo.
Yeah.
In a different way though. It's like I don't know if I thought Joe Judge was stupid. Like I think I thought he was just like too intense and like probably just like not a forward thinking coach, but like as a position coach, I'm sure he could be fine. Brian Callahan was like an OC for the Bengals, did a great job for all these years. How? Like I might
Urban
respect
Meyer.
Joe Burrow. I might respect Joe Burrow more now. Yeah, Urban Meyer. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. Shout out Red Eclipse. Brandon Staley, but that was mostly a one-sided vendetta I had.
He made the playoffs. He made the playoffs, and honestly, he was a bad coach. At least I'll give him credit for being like ahead of the curve on the go for 2 stuff. He became a coward and listened to the haters and fell victim to the haters. But he made the playoffs once. He wasn't that bad. He's like, I'm trying to think more absolute disaster. I don't even want to say like David Culley. That like was not even fair. He was like hired to be fired by Houston with like a terrible team. But yeah. Maybe that's a fun off-season thing. Bozo head coaches, former bozos.
We can have a draft.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the afternoon slate. Indianapolis at the Rams. The Rams win 27-20. Matthew Stafford targeted Puka Nacua 15 times in this game. 13 receptions for 170 yards and a touchdown. Like, that is an insane target share. Puka Nacua is winning MVP this year. Like, Matthew Stafford is making it his mission for Puka Nacua to win MVP. Kyron Williams ran the ball well, 13 carries for 77 yards, although he did have a fumble. But A.D. Mitchell had 2 massive mistakes late in this game. The first one I'm sure everybody's seen, the ball coming out of his hands for a fumble out of the end zone in the third quarter, which, by the way, is the dumbest rule in sports, but we don't have to relitigate that because everybody always hates it when I say that. And then the one people probably might not have seen if they didn't watch the game, he had a holding penalty that negated a 53-yard go-ahead touchdown run with 2 minutes left. Now, it's not all his fault. I mean, Daniel Jones threw 2 picks. They had 11 total penalties, but A.D. Mitchell's going to catch a lot of the heat for this one. My guy, Cam Curl, big Cam Curl fan way back, reeled in 2 interceptions in this game. I always love to see Cam Curl do well. I wish he had been an Eagle a long time ago, basically forever. He's like one of the crushes that never died for me, but Jared Verse had a strip sack in this game. This is a crazy split, Mark. Daniel Jones was pressured on 49% of his dropbacks. When pressured, he was 12 of 15 for 198 yards and a touchdown. When not pressured, he was 12 of 18 for 64 yards with 2 interceptions. So apparently, you should adopt the Vic Fangio drop 11 coverage that they played on that one snap in this game when you play Daniel Jones, because from a clean pocket, nothing good happens.
That's very funny. I don't know how often you can find a stat like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone had the comment that I literally had queued up to talk about. Puka Nacua's 2025 pace, 212 targets, 179 catches, 1,138 yards. For the fantasy heads out there, which is funny, Puka was a guy that I have in 3 of my 8 leagues, which, by the way, I don't endorse doing as many fantasy leagues as I'm in. But so Puka's on almost half of my teams. I'm heavily invested in Puka, especially for a first round pick guy. I'm heavily invested in Puka. And part of the answer that I was giving all year as to why you should draft Puka is you look at how successful he was down the stretch last year, and he did all that. I think he was wide receiver 2 on a points per game basis. He actually, if you look at the games he played, he was better than Justin Jefferson last season, and he did all of that scoring 4 touchdowns. So my thought was natural touchdown regression positively, and Puka will probably score 10 this year, 8 this year, and you'll get maybe he won't be 10 catches every game or whatever he was last year, but you'll get all those. You'll get some more touchdowns, and no matter what, his fantasy floor would be high because of that. Little did I know he'd be on pace for the greatest wide receiver season of all time through 4 games. Is 1 time. He might just not score touchdowns. Puka, he's your guy to get you from your own one to the other one, but then you take him off the field. Apparently, he useless in the red zone. Apparently, but yeah, he might be the best receiver in football. Like right now, today, might be better than Jefferson and Jamar. He's that good. But yeah, I actually walked out of this game probably feeling worse about the Rams and better about the Colts. I don't know if that's dumb. I bet the Rams in this game, Rams minus 3.5. They cashed for me. Thank you, Rams. But I really thought the Rams were going to come out and smack the Colts. I thought this was going to be like the Colts can beat the bad teams, and they can beat up the bad teams, and they can beat the middle of the pack teams. But when it came to the top 5, top 7 teams in the league, you would see that the Colts were clearly not in that group. The Rams let them hang the whole game, and the Colts would have won this game if A.D. Mitchell didn't, lose his brain for the game. So I actually walk out feeling better about the loser and worse about the winner in some ways. So I don't know what that says. I still think the Rams are good. But for instance, like the Rams are 6-point favorites this week against San Francisco. 6.5 I'm seeing on some books on Thursday Night Football. That seems excessive. Am I wrong?
I don't know. I'm not a big believer in San Francisco. I think I wouldn't want to bet that spread, but I'm not a big believer in San Fran.
So Purdy set out practice. Oh, Purdy's iffy then. Okay. I just kind of assumed since Purdy played that he'd play on Thursday night, but maybe that's why. Maybe that's the.
Are we sure they shouldn't be playing Mac Jones to begin with?
I think Purdy's better, but I do think Mac is a great backup. Like I don't think I would still bet Niners plus 6.5 if it's Mac. I think
Purdy's better, but it was a rough game for him. And that's the next one here. We'll get into it, but Jacksonville at San Francisco. Jacksonville wins 26-21, and Purdy comes back off of the injury, and he turned the ball over 3 times, which is going to kill you from, that kills Shanahan. He just wants a guy that will execute his offense and not turn the ball over. Purdy throws 2 picks. He had a fumble. Devin Lloyd had both of the interceptions for Jacksonville. My big thing about the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey continues to be totally ineffective as a runner. He had 17 carries for 49 yards. But he also continues to be dominant as a wide receiver. He had 6 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. And I don't know what that means, but it's been a pattern throughout this season. On the Jag side, Travis Etienne had a really nice game, rushed for 124 yards and a touchdown on 9 carries. I just find myself with a lot of questions about both of these teams. What were your takeaways on this one?
I thought this was a great win for Jacksonville. I'm planting my flag, and I think I've been here all year, and I liked the hire. I'm a full-on conehead after him going after Robert Saleh for keep my name out your mouth, like he's Will Smith. I thought that was one of the funniest things of all time. The Cone Saleh beef, I think, is fantastic. I think coach beef is always good. Harbaugh Schwartz, the handshake went too far back in the day, that was legendary. Harbaugh and Carroll in college, where Harbaugh, I think he called a timeout to like fake spike and run up the score on USC. And Pete Carroll came to the 50 and Harbaugh had his hands stuck out, and Carroll wouldn't shake it and went, "What's your deal, man?" And that's so for a long time, Harbaugh would make jokes about "What's your deal, man?" But I love coach beef, and this was some of the best coach beef you'll find. I think Robert Saleh told him he was going to kill him for saying "keep my name out of your mouth," which I guess I don't know. But I did think Robert Saleh's answer today.
Which, by the way, that's totally okay, and the NFL won't do anything about it. But they'll throw a 15-yard flag for stepping over a guy's ankles every single time. Yeah. But I digress.
The taunting thing. Oh, I mean, I guess this is just like as good as place has been any. The taunting. Who is asking for this? Who, like, the NFL is coming down on it. Why? Who is like, this is setting a bad example for our youth? Like, who cares? It is unbelievable. Like, the NFL cares. Why? Like, give me the reason why the NFL cares if a guy goes after an incomplete pass. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
It gives them an opportunity to fine guys. That's why.
I don't think Troy Aikman's a good official or a good announcer. But what I will say, I don't know if you saw that clip going around. I actually watched 0 of the Broncos-Bengals game. I was locked in on Jets-Dolphins and then fell asleep. Troy Aikman was on Broncos-Bengals, and they called a meaningless flag up 21-3. And he's like, yeah, if we slow it down and watch it in slow-mo, yeah, there's probably a flag there. But we're throwing a flag anytime we see anything remotely that could be a penalty. It's making the product unwatchable. And I will say, this week felt like there were flags. There were so many flags in every game. I mean, we talked about who was the game that with the 14 flags to the 8 flags. I think that was oh man, what game was that? That was the Chargers Giants. That was the Chargers Giants game. There's 22 flags in that game, and there's just it's the way that these games are being officiated. It is taking so much of the rhythm out of these games, calling every little ticky-tack thing and adding 2 taunting calls a game, it feels like, or at least 1 a game, adds just another thing that sets an offense back or gives an offense a free field goal sometimes. The taunting thing needs to stop. It's unbelievable. Anyway, back to the game. I do think that what do you think of the sign stealing thing in general that Robert Saleh brought up? And for anyone who doesn't know, Robert Saleh said that Liam Cohen and he called to be fair, I think this is the one thing that's been lost in this. Saleh did say the Shanahan types. Even though Shanahan's the head coach on the team he literally works for, he did, when he initially mentioned Liam Cohen, he said that Shanahan and McVay do the same thing. But Liam Cohen took issue with it, which makes you think, maybe they're doing something that's maybe not above board. But what do you think of the whole sign-stealing accusation? And then Saleh came out today to say that he was not accusing them of anything illegal. He's like, maybe I should have used a better word. But he's like, I think what they're doing is pretty impressive. But interesting nerd stuff.
My official take, get better signs.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm a big baseball fan. Have the wild card series on my TV right here. This is a a thing over decades and centuries in baseball. That's like, you steal signs if you can. Like, you don't want people using technology to do it, obviously, but
Right.
that's where it becomes the NFL probably has now. The NFL is going to have to look into it now because Salah said it and because it became a topic. The NFL is probably going to at least look into it. So it's interesting. But yeah, I generally agree with you, and that's always my stance.
Yeah. By the way, just looked up penalty numbers while we were talking about that. Penalties are up 12% this season compared to last year. So small sample size, but up 12%.
And it's happening in college as well. I will say, I this Saturday, the 3:30 slate in the SEC, there was it was Auburn, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss, LSU. I don't know how many flags were in each game, but it felt like every positive play for either team, there was flag, it's coming back. And the worst, I do think it's like a bad thing for football as a sport that anytime a good play happens, you can't even celebrate without being like, wait. Oh, okay, it counts. Like, when you get to that point, you know that the game has had no rhythm.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, let's keep rolling and let's go to Kansas City. So Baltimore goes to Kansas City. They lose 37-20. Xavier Worthy returned in this game, and his presence was definitely felt. He was the Chiefs' leading rusher with 38 yards on 2 carries. He was their leading receiver with 83 yards on 5 receptions. And the Chiefs scored on 7 of their first 8 possessions in the game. Patrick Mahomes threw for a season-high 270 yards and had 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. And it's hard to tell if that's because the Chiefs' offense just improved that much or because they played the Ravens' defense. Because the Ravens' defense is terrible, and the Ravens are in an awful spot. They're 1-3 now. Lamar had a bad game against Spags, blitzes. He throws a pick. He had a bad 4th down throw for a turnover. He had a fumble. Then he injures his hamstring and left the game, and now supposedly is going to miss 2 to 3 games, which means you have games against the Texans and the Rams the next 2 weeks. And by the way, Ronnie Stanley left this game in the first quarter. The defense is missing Marlon Humphrey, Roquan Smith, Nate Wiggins. I think it's pretty likely the Ravens are going to be at 1-5 after they lose to the Texans and the Rams. And that's going to be a tough one to dig back out of. They could legitimately lose this division to the Steelers. And it's the first time I've really thought that.
I am not there yet. It'll depend on how many games Lamar misses. So let's look at their next 3 games. They play Houston at home, LA at home, Chicago at home. Then they get at Miami. If they can go 1-2 in these next 3 games, and that would put them at 2-5, I would still think that they can go ahead and win that division. So I think Pittsburgh's winning 9 games. I think we know.
Of course, yeah.
But as is written in the stars, I think Pittsburgh's going 9-8. So Baltimore just has to get to 10 wins. So they have to go 9-4 the rest of the way, which I feel like might sound like a lot when you consider that they're 1-3. But I think they're going to do it as long as Lamar gets healthy and looks like himself. I think, yeah. Someone asked a question: is it insane to think
Mark, you're kind of in and out. You might have to get a little closer to your mic.
Thank you for letting me know. Yeah. Commenter said, is it insane to think that Baltimore needs a franchise soft reset? I just think they need a good receiver. And like you commented, I think more than anything, they just need to get healthy. But I watched a thread that none of Baltimore's route runners can get open in man coverage. None of their guys can get open in man coverage. So people are just getting manned up, and there's nothing for Lamar to do. We've talked for a long time about how they just don't have true, legit wide receivers. They have Zay Flowers, and then who? Like old man DeAndre Hopkins and Rashad Bateman, and the corpse of Mark Andrews, and Isaiah Likely just played his first game of the year coming off of a big injury where he didn't get any catches. Like I'm concerned about Baltimore. I don't think they're a contender. I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl or anything like that. And they were my pick before the year. So that's certainly something, but I still think that they beat out Pittsburgh to get to the playoffs. But the real story of this game, I actually don't think is Baltimore. I think it's Kansas City. I think they're back. I think they're unfortunately fully back. It's Buffalo or Kansas City coming out of the AFC.
Yeah, as it always is, it feels like.
And it's probably Kansas City. I mean, if we're just being honest, it's probably Kansas City.
Yeah, Buffalo will beat them in the regular season, lose in the AFC Championship game. So all right.
So someone said this league philosophy of deprive your star quarterback of a serious wide receiver weapon is really annoying. I agree on Baltimore. And you know what? I agree on Buffalo as well. Mahomes, though, I get that they did that a couple of years ago and won the Super Bowl with it. At this point, they spent like a second-round pick on Rashee Rice, who turned into a really good player before legal and injury issues, and they spent a first-round pick on Xavier Worthy. So I do think that the Chiefs recognized that was a problem and tried to fix it, and then Worthy missed time and Rashee Rice missed time, and so it's like it looks like that, but I think we're going to be quickly like, oh man, Mahomes has weapons again. I think that's going to be the story that comes out in 3 weeks when Rice is.
It's hard to fix a team when you're drafting from the bottom of the round every year. And that's kind of what the whole cycle of parity is built upon.
And they nailed it in the early part of this dynasty, where you got McDuffie, and you got George Karlaftis, and you got Trey Smith, and you got Creed Humphrey. And you were just hitting at such a ridiculous rate from when was that? Like 2020 to 2022, probably 2023, maybe, like that 2, 3, 4 year stretch. It really felt like they just kept nailing draft picks. You're not going to do that every year. So, and especially if you do hit, which I think Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are hits of draft picks. Like I think both are going to be second contract guys for them. And when they're out for the first 3 games of the year, and you're on Hollywood Brown and Tyquan Thornton and Juju as your top 3 receivers, the offense probably is going to look a bit lacking.
Yeah, the 2021 draft, Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, Noah Gray, and Trey Smith, all without a first-round pick, is
unbelievable.
Just unbelievable, yeah. So, all right, let's keep rolling here. Let's get through the rest of these afternoon games. We've got Chicago at Las Vegas. Chicago wins 25-24. The Bears scored a touchdown to take a 25-24 lead with 1:34 left. They missed on the 2-point conversion, so it's a one-point game. The Raiders return the ensuing kickoff to the 42-yard line and then end up attempting a 54-yard field goal that was blocked to end the game. Ashton Genty finally had a good game. He has 21 carries for 138 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 2 touchdown passes. He did have a fumble, but we don't need to mention that too much. What we can mention is Geno Smith tossing 3 interceptions in this game. He's got more interceptions than touchdowns through 4 games now. Conveniently still located in the top 10 on the Ringers QB rankings list, by the way. But here's a fun stat for you, Mark. In 1,490 games in Bears history, only 3 rookies have ever scored a regular season touchdown against them. Ashton Genty is the 3rd one. Can you name either of the other 2? It's a receiver and a running back.
No way. Who are they?
Randy Moss and Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, there's no way.
If you would have ripped one of those off, I would have been like, that's seriously impressive. But I was going to give you the years, and I forgot to write down the years. The years might have helped. But anyways, takeaways from this one.
Someone commented, I feel seriously offended by both of you guys. You lied to me about the Raiders. I would like to apologize to everybody I lied to about the Raiders. It upsets me. I don't know what happened. Is Geno just not that good? Like, it doesn't make any sense. He had 3 straight years winning 9 or 10 games, 2 of them with Pete Carroll, the same head coach. Like, who were the I know the OCs got jobs in that Seattle era. I know Canales got a job. I think there was another guy who got a job. Maybe it's the play callers. Maybe it's a Chip Kelly issue here, because whatever we want to say about defense, because the Raiders, when I was pitching the Raiders as a 9-win, sneaky playoff hopeful team, I was kind of saying that the defense might be a problem, but that the offense should be really good. There's no excuse for this offense to not be good. When you have Geno, who should at least be average, you have Genti, who, looked elite in this game. So, like, Ashton Genti looked like the Ashton Genti I thought he was going to look like in this game. And you have Brock Bowers, best tight end on the planet. Jacoby Myers, really solid. Trey Tucker showed last week he can step up. There's no reason that this Raiders offense is having the struggles that they are. I think I'm going to blame Chip, who has coached in college for a long time now, coached at UCLA for probably like 6 or 7 years. And he goes to Ohio State. He called plays at Ohio State last year, won the national championship, but still another level. Still college football. He's coming back to the NFL, and it doesn't seem like he's adjusted his play calling style to what the NFL is in 2025. So I'm going to blame this squarely on Chip, and I hate to do so. But if I have to pick someone to blame for why the Raiders have let down what I expected of them, I guess it's either it's half Chip, half Geno. I guess.
There's some O-line mixed in there, too. The O-line's really struggled, I think. But, yeah, I expected the offense to be interesting, and it just really hasn't been. So, apologies, Brett Eclipse and everybody else. I was ready for this Raiders team to be interesting. And I drafted Ashton Genti with my first round of my fantasy draft, so I have skin in the game. It just didn't work out so far. Maybe they're going to turn a corner. But I mean, they still managed to lose this one, so who knows?
Great sign though for Genti here. I mean, you have to feel good about and the crazy thing is, going into last week, like the running back leaders for running yards were like, it was insanely low, like rushing yards for the top guys. And this is actually just a thing in general because of the kickoff rules and drives starting at like the 35 now on
kickoff
average.
Rules are so stupid.
The top guys are going to have less yards. Like Saquon would have had like 1,700 yards this year if it was last year. Jamar Chase would have been down 300 or 400 yards. Like people were doing the on paces for like top running backs, and it's not in line with what we usually see. Now, of course, Puka is tearing it apart and doing his own thing, but I think there's a lot of guys out there who the pace is way down for. But I think going forward, you have to feel pretty good about Genti. I think that the conversation about this Bears game, unfortunately, has nothing to do with on the field. What did you think of the Ben Johnson interaction with the sideline reporter? My take on it, and I don't know if this is popular or unpopular, I thought that was an insane way to talk to the coach. Like, I think in the middle of these games, talking to a head coach whose livelihood is on the line every single game here, and being like, it's not working. You're gonna do something different. Like, I thought the way she talked to him, people are getting on Ben Johnson and questioning Ben Johnson. That was insane to me. That was an absurd sideline interview. End the coaching sideline interview mid.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that. Just let these guys play, or let them coach. We don't need all that. No coach has ever said anything remotely interesting in them anyways, so just stop it.
Insane.
The only reason I need a reporter on the sideline is to give me injury updates.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, let's get to the Sunday night game. Long show tonight, Mark. We're digging into all this stuff, but
I didn't even feel like we went that tangent heavy either.
I know. We had the one. We usually have more than one, though. Maybe we spent a lot more time on the one. And I don't even remember what it was about now, but that's all right. Sunday Night Football, Green Bay at Dallas. This game goes to overtime and ends in a tie, which is... So, I was like, I'm going to finish this game because there's just a couple of minutes left. And then it goes into overtime. And then it goes the entirety of overtime and ends in a tie, and I'm up like almost an hour later than I intended to be, and that wasn't a good decision for my Monday morning. But you could call this an incredible offensive performance or a terrible defensive performance. It depends on your perspective, I guess. On an EPA per drive basis, these were the two best offensive performances of the year so far, and thus the two worst defensive performances. We had a blocked extra point return for 2 points. We had 6 consecutive touchdown drives that gave Dallas a 3-point lead with 43 seconds left. But of course that wasn't enough as Green Bay hits a 53-yard field goal to send it to overtime after some terrible clock management, by the way. Don't know how you're not playing for the touchdown there and how you almost end up messing around and not getting your field goal. But then you get into overtime and dual field goals in overtime, and a game that featured 925 yards of total offense ends in a tie. I don't know if you call it great football. I don't know if you call it awful football. I don't know what you call it. I guess it just depends on what you like in a football game, but high flying to say the least.
I'll put Dallas aside because I don't even really think that there's a conversation to be had about Dallas. The offense played great. We know that the defense is bad. The conversation here is about the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
What the heck? Like, I thought this defense was going to be one of the best in football. You know, you shut the Lions down in week 1. You shut Jaden Daniels down in week 2. Obviously, week 3 wasn't very important or very impressive against the Cleveland team, but you still gave up 13 points, which part of that was allowed to a blocked field goal, which led to a field goal. Like, really shocking stuff. But I'm not gonna yank them out of contender territory quite yet because it's one game. It was a weird environment. It's, you know, Sunday Night Football. Dallas showed up guns blazing for the Micah game. But man, it's hard. This one will be in the back of my mind with that defense all year long. Jeff Hafley, I thought that guy was on a fast track to a head coaching job, and man, that was one of the more stunning results from like a side of the ball, I guess, like a unit that I've seen all year. I guess I could say.
Yeah, I think it's one game and anything can happen. And we know Dak Prescott can get on a heater in some of these games. And so I'm not going to read too much into it. We'll leave it as a blip on the radar for now. But if it happens again, we're going to come back to this and be like, man, what's going on with the Green Bay defense? Because it's a unit we thought was shaping up to be really good. And, after this, certainly you've got some doubts. I will say from an Eagles fan perspective, this was like the best ever outcome to this game. Because both of these teams basically get a half a loss. And so I went into this game going, who do you root for? Packers are probably the threat for the 1 seed, but nobody ever repeats the NFC East, so you probably just need to focus on that. And this is just the best of both worlds because both teams essentially get a half a loss here.
You're absolutely right. And someone said, I imagine the Cowboys feel much better than the Packers do. Of course they do. The Cowboys won the heck out of that tie. Are you kidding me? That's a tie in name only. The Cowboys won that tie and the Packers lost that tie. It's simple.
Love that. The Packers won the tie or lost the tie. All right, let's get into
no question about it. Jerry was giving media interviews after the tie. Jerry partied after the tie. Are you kidding me?
All right, let's get into the Monday night games. One of these was interesting, one wasn't. We'll start with the interesting one. The Jets at the Dolphins. The Dolphins win 27-21, so they now have a win. The Jets are still winless at 0-4. Darren Waller came out of retirement to sign with an 0-3 Dolphins team, and he caught 2 touchdown passes. He only had 27 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. The Jets turned the ball over 3 times. Braylon Allen fumbled near the goal line. And then Miami went on a 96-yard touchdown drive. The Jets fumbled again on their next possession. And they fumbled the opening kickoff in the second half. They committed 13 penalties. They outgained the Dolphins by 104 yards. But they shot themselves in the foot too many times. Justin Fields was 20-27 for 226 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed for 81 yards, including a 43-yard touchdown. which is his 4th touchdown run of more than 40 yards in his career, which ties Lamar Jackson and Cordell Stewart for the most ever by a quarterback. Also, a lot of injuries in this game. Tyreek Hill tears his ACL in this game. He's done for the year. Braylon Allen was also injured, filling in as a kick returner, which doesn't even make sense because he's a power back. I don't know why they did that, and obviously he ends up getting hurt, and I haven't heard anything for sure on that injury yet, but he was ruled out really quickly. So what were your thoughts on this one, and are the Jets just the most cursed franchise in history?
Yeah, it's a shame. That defense stinks. And I honestly, you said we're going long. He's stealing all my. I queue up I have certain ideas that I write down for games, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be what I talk about in this game. And Brett Eclipse keeps stealing my thunder. He had the Puka on pace for. He had that the Cowboys won the tie. Now he's got the Breece Hall quote. But yeah, I wanted to read that Breece Hall said one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Teams shoot themselves in the foot, then we come back and shoot ourselves in the head. I think that's hilarious. I think it's a great quote, and it sums up the Jets season perfectly. And I think it says everything that needs to be said about the Jets.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Justin Fields. I actually think he's been mostly good, and I don't think this is helping his opportunity at getting a job after this. So I hope he's a starter somewhere else next year.
Yeah. This is great stuff here from Brett Eclipse, because now he says maybe he can work in as the backup if you ever need to miss a show. This is how you take advantage of opportunity, folks. You come into the chat, you give some good quotes, you steal Mark's thunder, and then you try to steal his job. I love it.
Yeah. This is like the Progressive Backups commercial. Teddy Bridgewater's coming in for me.
Oh, all right. Don't disrespect our man Brett Eclipse by comparing him to Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, Teddy guy. I was trying to use I could have said like Tommy DeVito. I could have went meaner than Teddy Bridgewater with the Progressive Backups. I feel like I was picking a nice one. He was a starter for a while.
He was. He also got the Eagles a first-round pick.
I like Teddy. I have no problem with Teddy. Big head.
I hate how his career played out with that injury. Kind of a what could have been thing. But speaking of injuries, let's go to Denver. Cincinnati at Denver. Denver just blows the Bengals out 28-3. This is a gross game. Time
out. I randomly, because I know you'll appreciate this, I randomly was talking to someone the other day about when Matt Rule fired Joe Brady from Carolina and was like, he's the problem. The guy who made Teddy Bridgewater like fantasy relevant starting quarterback for a terrible Panthers team that had no talent on it. That guy's the problem. I think that might have been our first year or second year on Chalk Talk, where we were just like, how is this Carolina team competing in these games? I remember they would end every game with who was their kicker? Was it Joey Sly? I think they would end every game with
still
Joey
their
Sly.
kicker, and he can't make 40-yard field goals. He missed two of them this week.
They would end every game with him trying to kick like a 67-yarder to win the game. Like they would roll him out there on like the 45 and be like, I don't know, we're down 3. Like, let's try to get him out there. And they would lose every week. I think they probably went 5-12 or 6-11. If we went back and looked at the stats, I think we'd probably be less impressed. But at the time, I think we went into that year thinking that offense was going to be horrible, and Joe Brady made them passable. And then right away, Matt Rule fired him the next year. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought that was a funny thing that I randomly got into a conversation with someone the other day when Joe Brady came up.
Yeah. Brett Eclipse asked if anybody caught the play where the Broncos rushed 3 and the Bengals' entire interior O-line. So all 3 interior O-line and the running back blocked one guy. And then both edge rushers just obliterated the tackles one-on-one for a sack. I did see that. That's hilarious. I'm going to pull that up if you haven't seen it. But this was a gross game for the Bengals.
I did see it.
You did?
Yeah, that O-line, what they've done to my sweet prince, Chase Brown, it's a joke.
Yeah. And the defense is no better. They gave up 500 yards of offense to the Broncos. So they have no defense, and without Joe Burrow, they have no offense either. Jamar Chase was held to 23 receiving yards in this game. J.K. Dobbins had a nice game, 101 yards on 16 carries, while R.J. Harvey added 58 yards on the ground, 40 yards and a touchdown through the air. So first game, R.J. Harvey has seen significant usage. We'll see if that holds. But what were your thoughts on this one?
The Bengals have 200 rushing yards as a team in 4 games. 24 players in the NFL have more than that. And as a team, the Bengals are averaging 205 total yards per game. That's the lowest in the NFL. It's like this season's designed for us to be like, wow, maybe we didn't give Joe Burrow enough credit when he was good. Brian Callahan's a bozo. The Bengals look horrible without Burrow. They can't run the ball. The O-line's horrible. The defense is horrible. Browning's bad. It's like this is like a retroactive Joe Burrow MVP case of the last couple of years watching this team and watching Callahan. But my take on this game is that I am so happy that Denver convinced the sports books to change this line yesterday after the Eagles played, but before Denver played, or I guess Sunday night is when I looked at this. The Eagles were a 5.5 point favorite. Is where it opened against Denver. That line is now 3.5. The Eagles are minus 3.5 against Denver. That basically means they think we're barely better than Denver. I think that's a joke. I think this should be I thought 5.5 was light. I would have bet 5.5. I think this should be a touchdown. I think this line is half what it should be. And I think the Eagles show up next week, especially with Denver on a short week, playing Monday into Sunday, which is something I always like as a gambler, fading the teams that play off Monday Night Football. I am happy and thankful to the Cincinnati Bengals for being so incompetent that they propped the Broncos up enough that Vegas dropped the line 2 points.
All right, so there you go. Shout out to the Broncos, hopefully making Mark some money this weekend. So that is going to about do it for our Week 4 recap show. At a new time on Tuesday night. We might be on Tuesday nights a little more frequently moving forward, but we'll be sure and let you guys know about that. But Mark, before we get out of here, do you have any final thoughts that you want to fire off?
Final thought? Yeah, I'll just say final thoughts. The Jags are going to beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football next week. How about that for a final thought?
All right, Jags taking down the Chiefs. Right after you said the Chiefs were back. That's they are bold.
Back. I do think the Chiefs are back as a contender, but I think they throw people off the scent. They lose next week. they lose next week, and then they get Rice back. Is it so next week's week? Oh no, it's still 2 games away. But they'll split. They play Detroit the week after. So these next 2 games I think are tough. Then they go on the run. Once they get Rashee Rice back against the Raiders going forward, I think then is when the Chiefs fully unlock themselves. But I think we got a taste of it against Baltimore. I think we will get more of it, but not against the Jags in Jacksonville. That Jags team should be 4-0. And I should have said this in the Jags portion of this show, but I think I got sidetracked by the 49ers. The Jags are going to be 4-0, or should be 4-0. They're going to be 4-0.
All right. There you have it, folks. Mark threading that needle of the Chiefs are back. They are Super Bowl contenders, and they are losing to the Jags next week. All in one podcast.
As Mac would say, and I'm always sunny in Philadelphia, I'm playing both sides so that I always come out on.
And with that, we will leave you guys for this evening. Thank you for joining us for episode number 205 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. Drop us a 5-star rating wherever you stream your podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHalfNFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr., and we will catch you guys next time. Your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. And this one is specifically for new customers who can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus over $200 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PINPULL. That's code PINPULL to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus over $200 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois. Void in Ontario. Bonus bet expires 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like expecting the leadership of a team captain on the football field, but getting a sea captain. You wouldn't settle for just anything for your team. Shouldn't it be the same for your insurance? So don't settle for just any insurance when you can go with a leader. State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
United Healthcare nurse Crystal checked in on a patient.
We do a routine call after surgery, and I could tell in her voice that she was struggling.
Crystal knew she needed help.
I knew that this is very serious. This is like septic. This is life-threatening.
And she knew just what to do.
And I called the hospital and said, she's coming in. Here are her labs.
And got her the help she needed.
I see my role at United Healthcare as a life-saving role.
Hear more stories like Crystal's at UHC.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan area. Limitation and exclusions apply.
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.